I feel like the evolution of my voice every day is like something new. Like this morning, I felt like I was a 3 a day smoker. Like last night, I was just kind of like tripping over my words. It's like every day I wake up and I'm like, oh, what stage of laryngitis are we going to be in today?
Oh my God, it's so awful. It's so awful. Speaking of tripping over my words, I did all those date drops for Eleanor for the podcast today, and I could not like translate the numbers to months. And
Oh, sweetheart.
I would just look at like 11/11/2021 and I'd be like, today's episode originally aired on Blow Blembler. I was like, why can't I read this?
Below Blember. That's what we're now. I mean, listen, life is hard. We're in COVID season 3. I don't care for it.
No, I don't. But I was like, I know what the number 11 means when it comes to months, but my brain was just like, those two train tracks were not lined up. It took way longer than it should have at times.
We're all going to be gentle with ourselves this week. That's at this life. My gosh. Forever.
Wow.
All right. Welcome to the Good Doctors Live, everybody.
Hi, friends and neighbors. Welcome to 2022. As you can hear, Dr. Kristen is slowly dying. No, she's not. She's just got a stubborn case of laryngitis gifted to her by the great state of Texas. So for those purposes, she is going to be just sprinkling in some color commentary today. And I'll be doing some of the guts of the lifting. Thank you already for comments and joining us, Sasha and Jay. Hello, friends. Yes, Jay, we agree that COVID should have been canceled after season 1. Alas, that was not the decision that the network made.
Here we are.
But let's jump into some empathy exercises. I'm not going to be good at transitions, y'all. You know this already. That's Dr. Kristen's gift, not mine. But super excited that we've got a couple hockey ones up. Yay, Jay, hockey, yay. So first up, we have this post from our friends at The Gist that Brigette Lacquette is the first Indigenous woman to scout for an NHL team. Now, in all fairness, Jay and I were talking about this offline, and we were struggling a little bit because it's kind of ironic that she's hired by the Chicago Blackhawks, whose name is racist. But good for the Blackhawks. Maybe Brigitte can talk to them about a name change. I don't know. It's exciting to see more women in the NHL. As we've talked about several times, they struggle with bringing women into the fold and bringing, non-white cis het men into the fold, as many sports do. So we salute the Blackhawks for their hiring decision and encourage them to reconsider a name change. All right. More ladies, more firsts. These are our favorite things to do. So up next is Kiwi journalist Oriini Kaipara, who has made history for becoming the first person to present primetime news with the traditional face tattoo. She is a Maori woman, and face tattoos are a traditional part of kind of a coming of age within that cultural group. And so super excited to see that representation on television. Love it. More Indigenous hockey news. Also, I just found this Twitter account when I saw this tweet. Hockey Indigenous. Did not know it existed. Hit the follow button. You should too. But we would like to send our congratulations to Abby Roque of the Wanapete First Nation, apologies for butchering that, I know that I did, on being named to the U.S. Women's Olympic team. Hooray! Congratulations, Abby. We love to see this representation, and we love to see this organization that's promoting Indigenous hockey in North America. So we'll continue to see what Hockey Indigenous tweets, and we'll let you know when we've got the goods. Finally, this is hilarious because when we decided on today's topic for the GDD, I started typing stuff into our Trello card for it. And one of the things I typed that we were going to be watching for 2022 was the Elizabeth Holmes trial. Because I was like, we might not get a verdict in time for the GDD tomorrow. Little did I know, what came into my inbox last night via Dr. Kristen was the news that Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes was found guilty of 4 of 11 charges in her fraud trial. Basically,
she was found guilty of conspiring to defraud investors.
Yeah.
But they couldn't prove that she was defrauding patients. So we'll link to a video in the show notes that explains the differences between those and what it means for sentencing. But basically, a jury found that she lied to investors.
Yeah, and if you don't know the story of Elizabeth Holmes, y'all, it is something else. We highly recommend the documentary The Inventor, which is the deep dive into this. We also covered it on our YouTube channel, so you can circle back and check out our coverage and our thoughts and feelings. Too Long Didn't Read. She is one of those Silicon Valley, upstart business people that basically created the idea of a product that was not feasible and did not exist, and perpetuated fraud against the investors, and we would argue also patients, that she was going to create this blood diagnostic machine that could do it without, what was it? It was doing it without taking your blood, right? Or
1 drop. That you were going to be able to diagnose like every disease on the planet from 1 drop of blood. And like every hematologist on the planet was like, actually, chicken. That's a no. And she was like, watch me.
And the documentary like shows you the machinery that's needed. And it was this tiny little box, right? That it was just going to be like, it's so small and it's so simple. And you just prick your finger and you can find out if you have any sort of blood disorder. And they went to labs that were actually doing blood testing. And they were like, it takes this machine right now. And it's 2016. So like, I don't know where she came from in the TARDIS, but girl was lying. So she lied to a lot of people. She knew she was lying, hence the fraud trial. And we are delighted to see accountability for liars. So we will not be following the trial and the verdict. We will be following the sentencing, obviously, on what takes place with that. So we will be keeping our eye on that, and we will keep updating you guys as we have further information. All right, quick and easy empathy exercises. As you guys may or may not know, we didn't have a GDD last week. It was a holiday week. I was actually on holiday. Dr. Kristen famously doesn't get those lovely concepts. But since I wasn't working, we didn't do this. And as we were talking yesterday about what we wanted today to be, we're like, hey, we just did what we, episodes on our podcast of what our hopes and dreams are for 2022. We have a hot-ish take with our friend, Mary Elizabeth Molly, about why we don't like resolutions. So it's all this new year kind of stuff. So why not talk about what we're excited about or looking forward to in 2022? So, friend, you just tell me if and when you want to say things.
Well, why don't we just start with Theranos and Ghislaine Maxwell, and then, because those are the things I really want to talk about.
You do those, girl. You do those.
Okay. So as Dr. Arian just explained everything about Elizabeth Holmes, I am fascinated by Elizabeth Holmes. Like,
yeah, she is legit so fascinating.
I don't understand this level of hubris. I don't understand how every smart person around a subject can look at you and say you're wrong. And you are still self-deluded enough to go, you're all dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, this doesn't just apply to Elizabeth Holmes. I'm also fascinated by a lot of people that believe that. Adam Newman is another one at WeWork.
Yep.
But there's also this very specific alchemy of venture capitalist in the aughts that like, or in the tens, the aughts and the tens, that this case captures, where people were so obsessed about getting on the ground floor of the next Facebook that they were like willing to be lied to.
Willing to be sold like literally anything.
Literal lies. There's also an incredible book called Bad Blood by John Carreyrou. And in it, the two whistleblowers that lost their jobs and were targeted by Elizabeth for whistleblowing are featured heavily. And we need to thank them. Their names are Aaron and Adam. I cannot remember their surnames, but they are why she's being held accountable. They were the first people to come forward. So, Bad Blood, if you're doing any reading challenges and they're like, you need a true crime book, honestly pick up Bad Blood because it reads like a novel. Like I read it in a night.
It is such a crazy story. And you'd read the book and I think you'd already watched the documentary and then you were like, we need to watch this documentary together. We often do this. We're like, no, I have to be in your presence to watch this. And we were just gobsmacked. It is one of the craziest stories I've like ever heard. And it is straight, like if it had not happened in real life, I wouldn't have believed it. And like, we mean top level investors. She had Bill Clinton investing in this.
Like, wasn't Henry Kissinger one of them?
Yeah. Henry Kissinger was a big proponent. Like why we're trusting Henry Kissinger with a lot of things is
I know, but in 2012, we were trusting with a lot of things. So
we were, yeah. So she hoodwinked a whole lot of people.
Whole host of people. And what I will say, one of her claims right now, and that the jury did not buy in this trial at all. And so I don't believe that they will buy it in future civil litigation, is that her boyfriend, who I believe is 12 or 13 years her senior, a gentleman named Sunny Balwani, was abusing her, and that she didn't do any of this without that he was the puppet master.
Yeah.
And this jury appeared to go, no.
No.
But Sunny's trial starts soon. And so it'll be interesting to see what the jury in Sunny's trial believes. I believe he is up against some of the same counts.
Yeah.
So she tried to play. I have a big thing for if she was in an abusive, I mean, he sounds like a peach, I'll tell you that. So she was not in a great relationship, but, one of the things that gets me about her and the other woman we're about to talk about in a second, Ghislaine Maxwell, is the entire lack of personal responsibility.
Yeah.
This is completely other people's fault. She holds no responsibility. She shows no remorse for any of this. And so I just don't get it. So the sentencing will still come. Likelihood that she can face time in prison, she will. I don't believe it will be very long. Some of that is because they didn't convict her of anything besides financial crimes.
Yeah.
And Ghislaine Maxwell is convicted of trafficking children for sexual pleasure of others. Yeah. So there's a little bit of an imbalance here. But the Theranos thing, this is not the last time we're going to talk about it on this channel. You guys know when we fall down rabbit holes, we fall down them hard and we face plant. So Hulu has a series about Theranos coming out at the beginning of March, starring Amanda Seyfried. I can't remember how I'm supposed to say your name. Because it's not phonetic. There's like something I don't do right. Anyway.
Yeah.
Lily Kane from Veronica Mars is playing Elizabeth Holmes.
Yeah.
And Saeed from Lost is playing Sunny Balwani. So we'll be covering that episode by episode because if a New York Times article on her trial gave us this much, you can imagine what the series is going to do.
We're so excited to just revisit it because it's one of our favorite stories to tell. We talk about it all the time. Yeah. We use it as a teaching moment all the time. But yeah, so keep an eye out for the Dropout. We'll be doing coverage of that when it gets released on our YouTube and podcast.
So the other is Ghislaine Maxwell, which is a case that I follow closely and Dr. Aaron has not, and we have not covered on this channel in full. There is a documentary called Filthy Something Rich on Netflix about Jeffrey Epstein that I would recommend. If you can stomach this. It explains exactly how you can go from being essentially a college dropout to providing children for some of the richest men in the world.
Yeah.
And it is horrifying and fascinating at the same time. And one of the key pieces of this empire that Jeffrey Epstein, who died by suicide, allegedly, in prison awaiting trial in New York City. I mean, he's dead. Whether it was by suicide or murder depends on what corner of the internet you are inhabiting that day. But my husband and I actually disagree on this. We were talking about it last night as to exactly how he died. But Ghislaine Maxwell was his girlfriend at one point, was his best friend, was, whatever. But what she was convicted of last week was literally grooming and recruiting the girls for this machine. They were between the ages of 14 and 18. That's important for the statute of sentencing. Under the age of 14 gets longer than over the age of 14. So it's important in the state of New York that she was sentenced to that age group of girls. There is an accuser right now who is in civil litigation with Prince Andrew in the state of Virginia. And so if you are hearing that name associated with this, that is because it is as proven as it will probably ever get that Prince Andrew was a recipient of this machine, a recipient of services of this machine. And the girl that is the young woman, I actually don't know her age. She might be our age. I'm not sure. The woman who is accusing Prince Andrew did sign a settlement deal with Epstein, and Prince Andrew is saying absolves Prince Andrew from responsibility, civil litigation wise and money wise, to this young woman. It's messy. It's ugly. It's terrible. It's human nature. It's the worst parts of us on trial. So we're going to be Ghislaine Maxwell, by the way. I absolutely fundamentally do not believe that she believes she's done anything wrong. You watch her behavior in trial, she does not believe she did anything wrong. Her name is spelled very strangely, but the way that I've heard it said over and over again is Ghislaine. So that's why I'm saying it that way. This is not a journey that Dr. Aaron could join me on, but I dragged my husband with me, whether he wanted to be or not, because, richer or poorer. He drags me to Kennedy Space Center. I drag him into sexual abuse documentaries. It's a real equal thing. So if this is something you want to talk about more with just me, please reach out to us in the comments or on the YouTube, and I will go back and forth. I have lots of thoughts on it, but this will be the last time we talk about Ghislaine Maxwell on this channel.
All right. We have some comments coming in from Jay. Forgot that happened. Presumingly that you mean the death of Jeffrey Epstein. That was lost in the 2021 of it all, Jay.
Late 2020? I can't remember. Yeah.
It was pandemic time, meaningless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sasha. I think that's one of the ones that I could also, she said there's a few conspiracy theories I could buy. He not dying by his own hand is one of them. Agreed, friend. Agreed. Some other things. You have Russel Wilson sexual harassment allegations in here. Russel Wilson, the football player?
No, the hip hop guy.
Oh, okay. I missed that one. But
okay, so it's like
we will keep an eye on it.
So I am for the simple. I am because it's, and maybe I got his name wrong, but he was married to Kimora. He did the Fat Farm.
Oh yeah. I
thought it was Russell Wilson. So anyway, so he's been accused as much as R. Kelly has been. Just the girls have been. Is it Russell something else?
I think so
because I typed that it's somewhere around 3:00 in the morning when I was listening to a podcast. So it's Russell somebody. It's the guy that did Fat Farm. And he has had
Russell Simmons.
Thank you. Sorry. So Russell Simmons has been credibly accused of sexual assault, I think upwards of 12 women.
Yes, I remember this. Yeah.
And so that trial is supposed to start this year. Okay. And so we'll be watching that. We've gotten a couple requests to circle back on the R. Kelly. Thank you, Siobhan, who said Simmons. My insomnia is super fun, guys. Thank you, Siobhan, for that. We didn't cover R. Kelly because at the time we didn't feel that this was as white women, it was our story to cover. And so we may or may not do a deep dive into Russell Simmons once we see the charges. R. Kelly's was particularly like he only went after young Black women kind of thing. Like it just felt like it wasn't a conversation that we were capable, like we were particularly skilled at having. But Russell Simmons may or may not be that case. So we'll kind of keep you posted. I am definitely keeping an eye on it, even colloquially, and I'll be listening to podcasts about it. So if that's something you're keeping an eye on, definitely keep me in the loop. Sasha says, I feel pretty crummy. No wonder I aren't sleeping well. Sasha, I haven't been sleeping well since the year of our Lord, 1989. This is unfortunately not a new thing for me. But Dr. Aaron's very used to waking up and seeing like idea dumps at like 3:00 in the morning. And she's like, oh, we didn't sleep again. I was like, nah.
Who needs that?
Who needs that? Okay.
That?
So right. You can easily cover the other several.
I'm going to cover some stuff. Yeah. And you take a sip of tea or suck on a cough drop or whatever. Yes. So other things we're going to be keeping an eye on from the Indian country correspondent is the ongoing investigation into the treatment of Indian children at boarding and residential schools across this country. This is kind of falls under our umbrella of the troubled teen industry-ish, but Indian boarding schools were like one of the precursors to that, but also, a form of cultural genocide in which we removed Native children from their reservations and put them in schools to take the Indian out of them. So this is not something that our country has heretofore been very good at acknowledging, but since we have Pueblo Indigenous woman, Deb Haaland, as the Secretary of the Interior, she's making some changes, y'all. Just follow what she's doing. It's great. She's getting names changed on mountains back to indigenous names. Like all kinds of cool stuff is happening. But one of the cool things that's happening is she announced this investigation into reports of abuse and assault at the Indian boarding schools and residential schools. So that is something we will be continuing to cover and update should we have updates for those. These investigations can take 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. But if we have updates on that, we'll be giving them to you. Another thing we'll be keeping an eye on, obviously, we did a GDD live on Astroworld and the tragedy of Astroworld. So as legal proceedings and machinations continue to advance in that, we will link in the show notes an update on that from our friend, Emily D. Baker, as the lawyer, the legal scholar extraordinaire that she is. So we have an update from her on that. So we'll make sure and link that in the show notes.
Can I just say really quick, both Travis Scott and Alec Baldwin, while they are part of active investigations, decided it was intelligent to sit down for interviews.
Yeah.
So some of the video that we're going to link with Travis Scott is her analyzing the video and her kind of being like, why are you doing this? Why?
Oh, Lord.
So anyway, but she's also talking about some of the stuff. So if you're interested in the Congress is doing an investigation into Astroworld, if you have not heard that. So she talks about the letter that was sent from Congress to Live Nation.
Good.
And what that kind of looks like. Because I don't think I've ever followed a congressional investigation into a private company this closely before. So I'm learning a lot.
Yeah. That's great. We are always grateful for Emily's explanation of things. She does what we do on the internet, but with legal lawyer stuff, and lots of cursey words too. Pop culture stuff that we're going to be covering for 2022 up next. So join us next week for our continuing coverage of our deep dive into the opioid epidemic and its origins and ramifications. I meant to grab the screen grabs for everybody from our wonderful comments from the creator of Dope Sick, Danny Strong. Was very complimentary of our coverage of Dope Sick. And if you missed our coverage, it's on the YouTube. It's going to be on the podcast. in February. So, keep a weather eye out for that. If you haven't watched Dopesick, please do. We're very, very fond of it. But because of our coverage of Dopesick, one of our friends and followers, Ed, and a couple other people recommended The Pharmacist. So that's what we'll be covering next, which is based on a true story of a man who was a pharmacist, and I believe his son died from an oxy overdose, and some of the early activism in holding Purdue Pharma accountable. So we're going to be covering that. We have a lot more Cornucopia stuff to kind of fill in the in-between slots. So a lot of one-off documentaries that we'll be really excited to talk about and cover. And y'all, big news happened on Christmas Day. Woo, we're getting Bridgerton season 2. Yes. So obviously we'll be covering that. We will be covering it at the time it airs and drops, which we didn't do with season 1. So look for that at the end of March. As we said, in the middle of March or at the beginning of March, we'll be doing the limited series, The Dropout, on Elizabeth Holmes and the Theranos of it all. So March is going to be quite a pendulum swing to go from like Theranos to Bridgerton. But y'all, we run the gamut. We cover pop culture, so that means we get to cover whatever the hell we want. So make sure, if you aren't caught up on what Elizabeth Holmes did and who she is before The Dropout, you'll want to do that. So again, check out The Inventor I think it was on HBO Max or Netflix. I don't remember. HBO. Yeah, it was on HBO Max. And as Dr. K said, if you want to read about it, there's the book Bad Blood as well. So make sure and check that out. Yes, we all need more Bridgerton in our lives. Jay, it is the bestest news. Sasha, I almost reread all of Bridgerton over Christmas. I might reread Bridgerton in advance of this. Who knows? Siobhan, yes. We're so excited. This is, a full disclosure, one of Dr. K and I's favorite Bridgerton books is Antony's book. Antony and Kate is one of our favorite stories. Our favorite story, in case you are curious. We are big fans of Penelope. So that's our favorite book. Penelope and Colin, or Paulin, as their portmanteau is on the Twitter. So that's our favorite one. But I would say Antony and Kate is probably a real close second. I do love Antony and Kate.
Antony and Kate is enemies to lovers, and Colin and Penelope is friends to lovers.
Friends to lovers, yeah.
If one of them involved fake dating, that would be like fake dating is the follow-up trope, which is why we loved the first one.
Yeah.
But enemies to lovers and friends to lovers are our two favorite tropes. So it's just too delicious.
And I think the closest to fake dating that Bridgerton has is Hyacinth, I think.
Well, technically.
Yeah.
Technically.
Daphne and Simon is fake dating.
Daphne and Simon are fake dating. Yeah. And Hyacinth too, a little bit, but
I think because her and Gareth kind of pretend so that he doesn't get. I don't remember the details, but I do love their book because hers is also a mystery-ish. So they're trying to transcribe the. Anyway, I digress. We're very excited for Kate and Antony. They clearly listened to us in the casting and cast two absolutely gorgeous and stunning South Asian ladies for Kate and her sister. So super excited to continue our conversations about what diversity looks like in television and what diversity looks like in romance. And yeah, we don't know what else we're going to cover from pop culture stuff. You guys know we fly by the seat of our pants with a lot of this, unless we have a season of the stuff that we cover. Eventually we'll be getting the next season of The Crown, probably not this year. I will have to pull Dr. Kristen by her fingernails to get her to cover The Crown, but I think we'll probably still do it.
I will do it for you people under much duress. I am so done with that mess, but that's okay. It'll be a ranty.
It'll be ranty. We like to rant about things. We have a lot of fun talking about things we disagree with. Speaking of things we disagree with, and the course they have taken, we will be getting more of The Handmaid's Tale, though probably not in 2022. And we'll see. There's been this COVID delay in terms of pop culture production. We may cover Dairy Girls.
We are considering covering more Hallmark coverage outside of Christmas. So if you would like us to talk about Hallmark movies that don't take place during Christmas, please let us know.
Yeah,
or rom-coms in general. We could do a 90s retrospective. Tell us what you want.
We do love the rom-com genre. And yeah, I think just more for our own sanity, we're thinking about doing a Hallmark movie a month, dripped in between the opioid coverage and Theranos and all that jazz. Ooh, Jay suggests that new J-Lo rom-com, the one with
Owen Wilson.
Wilson. I don't like Owen Wilson.
I don't like Owen Wilson, and I don't know if I like theaters in February. We'll see. We'll see. Anything, the caveat is it has to be accessible on our sofas.
Correct.
Because we're not 100% into going back to movie theaters yet.
Not so much. Although I did go see West Side Story with my dad over Christmas, but I had a KN95 mask on the whole time and just like took small sips of water. That was the end. Only for the love of my father. Okay, lived culture stuff. Aside from the Colonizers World Tour, I don't know what we're going to cover, but we're excited about the Colonizers World Tour coming back, y'all. We have smartly decided to take breaks from that. It was a little intense last year to go full 7-8 months of our Colonizers World Tour. So we have 2022 and 2023 planned out. We're jumping back in March with Global Women's Voices. We're covering Ireland, India, Iceland, and Iraq. Yes, intentionally all eyes. We actually haven't covered Ireland on our Colonizers World Tour because we haven't done British colonies yet. So we're super excited for that one. So that'll be in March. And then we're doing a couple deep dives into some of the countries we covered last year because there was just too much to cover in 1 week. So we're going to deep dive into Brazil and Haiti next year. We're going to cover Italian colonies. I don't know. Somalia, I know, is one of them. I think Ethiopia is another one. Yes.
I'm right. Look at this, guys. Look at this is the concise history of Brazil.
Yeah, I have
already working my way through it.
I have some books on Brazil on my shelf here. Excited to do some deep dives. So the way those will break down, if you're interested, for an entire month, we will be covering Brazil, and each week we will do a specific area of Brazilian history or culture. So the Brazilian economy. I forget what else we're doing.
I think women, security, and then the Olympics and the year of 2016, essentially.
Yeah.
The World Cup and the Olympics. And we'll still be, concise, Jay. That's the concise history of Brazil.
Yes.
Although in its defense, it's been around for a very long time.
And it's massive. It is absolutely massive.
Yeah. So the other thing we will be looking for, just like we did last year, if you've never joined us on our Colonizers World Tour, we do 2 videos a week. One is a intro to the topic, the country, the topic, whatever it is. And the other is a piece of art made by, for, or about that area. So thankfully, both Brazil and Haiti have a lot of media made by and about them. Although Haiti, we discovered there is no Haitian, there's no way to get Haitian movies distributed in the United States. So it will end up being, I'm sure, a lot of documentary type stuff. But Brazil has a thriving film industry. So we're excited. For instance, last year we discovered a Brazilian rom-com named Love.com that was charming. So I'm sure we'll end up doing more of those. So please plan on joining us from essentially March to October with a 1-month break in there.
Yep. We're also going to be covering different indigenous groups. We do a lot of stuff on Native Americans, but we're going to be looking at indigenous Hawaiian folks and Aboriginal peoples and a couple other different groups, indigenous Alaskan Inuit peoples. So we're super excited about that. As per usual, if you are watching this somewhere around the world and we are covering where you are from, or something you know a lot about and you would like to join us in a conversation, join Dr. Kristen on Welcome to My World, something, we would love to have you. We love to have input. We know we have a wonderful and beautiful international following because the algorithms tell me where people download things and watch things from. So if you are from Brazil or Haiti or any of those indigenous populations or any place that was colonized by Italy, please keep a weather eye out and join us if you would like to discuss things. So I think that's everything I had on our list of things we know we're going to be looking out for in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, one of the things we cover is breaking lived culture news. So the next time, James Charles pulls something terrible, I'm sure we'll talk about it. It appears that the conservatorship of Britney Spears is over for sure. So, but anything like that, you can guarantee that we'll have thoughts if it has something to do with how humans interact with each other. We will definitely be chatting about it.
Yeah. So as per usual as well, we love suggestions, and a couple of them, to be specific, Hamilton reference, had to get it in there. So please, if you see something, hear something, you think would be part of our brand to cover, or you would want to hear our thoughts and feelings about it, please do let us know. You can get a hold of us on the socials. You guys know how to do that. Replay crew. Hi, replay crew. We love you. Do the same. Podcast folks, hit us up with suggestions. We do have a lot of plans, but we also leave a lot of flexibility because, sometimes a global pandemic happens and you have to shift everything. So we're pretty sure we're not going to get another global pandemic in 2022 because we're still in this one. But who knows what we're going to get. But we are delighted that y'all are along for the ride.
Indeed. So thanks so much for joining us on this first live of 2022, and we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.